Hey guys, I know my last video I did a little bit of talking, went over well, so I'm going to be doing another one of those videos. This one is going to be about the election. It's going to be controversial, but for the sake of uniformity, I'm going to be taking a non-biased, simply bipartisan view where if there's no proof of anything yet, and the allegations have not been affirmed by the Supreme Court or other court of law, then I'm not going to be agreeing. I'm not going to go with that view. Whether or not whatever the view is taking happened, I'm not going to be talking about that from any other view other than bipartisan. Non-biased, simply bipartisan. So that's just a little bit of a disclaimer. So here we go. So this year was a very interesting year. There's been a lot of concerns because people are saying, how can this many votes come in overnight for one city, almost all for Biden? Or how can Georgia turn blue for the first time in decades? Or it's just a lot of claims like that. Well, first let's start with Michigan. People were pondering on how Detroit got like tens of thousands of votes that were, I think, like 96% Democrat. Historically, Detroit is one of the most blue cities in the U.S. It's basically a mini Washington, D.C. Colored population, from a statistical standpoint, tends to vote Democratic. Lower class, homeless, I'm not sure if homeless people have, vote that often, but middle class, all of them tend to vote Democratic. That's just a statistical analysis. No other bias on that. That's solely statistics for decades. Taking that into accord, Detroit had some votes from maybe the auto workers, but they're not going to be getting that many red votes. So it doesn't seem that mind-boggling that a mainly colored community with almost everyone in the lower class is going to be voting Democrat. That's just a statistical, safe point for them. They can't go off a claim that makes sense for the other party, but okay, moving on from that, because I don't want to beat the dead horse. Georgia turned blue for a few reasons. This year has awoken the most voters in history or since Obama, one of the two. This was a massive election. This election, there's so much going on right now. The racial injustice is partially behind us, but I still feel that's a relevant matter in politics. There's a global pandemic that still some people are taking fake. I'm not going to give you the soft part on that. If you believe the pandemic is fake, you're simply wrong. You can't you can't say, "Oh, well, this doctor said it wasn't real," when nearly every doctor in the world who's intelligent enough to have a good degree or has a doctorate or stuff like that, they'll tell you this pandemic is not fake. This is not just some liberal agenda scheme to win the election. The severity of it is still under questioning. Infection rates, lethality rates, but regardless, this isn't something to be taken lightly. Regardless of your political views, your religion, cultural traditions, it's not okay to just throw away people's health and well-being and say, "Oh, it's all fake. Masks are uncomfortable." Yeah, masks are uncomfortable. Millions of people every day live basically with half the day with their mask on, and they deal with it. So don't be a slacker and just keep up your part. But that's not even what I'm trying to say. All of these things stimulated the American population to vote. We know this. So Georgia, if you look at a map of votes in any state, I'm not going to take this any longer than its face value, but every big city in the U.S. that's marked on the city's map was blue. I'm not going to question what that means, but in Georgia, there were about 6 of those cities that eventually they started to seep blue, and eventually they all linked. So that was about half the state. Even in Alabama, Alabama is historically very red, but there was a whole line of blue through the capital, and that was shocking to a lot of people. Or how about, yeah, that's why Georgia was one though. Like, that was the main cities. That's where the votes come from. Or why are all these states in the middle red? Why aren't we winning then? Well, because a state like California has like 56 electoral votes. A plateau can't vote. What is Wyoming gonna do for your president when it's just plateaus and corn? That's not going to get you electoral college votes. The Dakotas together are 6 votes. The Dakotas, like Colorado and Wyoming, are 1 Michigan. That's 4 states to 1. The whole middle, all of those 3, 2, and 4 states, they're less than California. Texas was within a margin. Texas was marginal. Or Wisconsin, Trump paid millions of dollars to have the votes recounted. They all more came back Democrat. You can't keep accusing voter fraud when that happens. Then it's time to just maybe switch to a peaceful transition. I just can't see these allegations of voter fraud without a court ruling. I cannot see these being logistically sound. Or how about, let's see, Arizona. Arizona, everyone's like talking about how it's gonna turn, and all this, and mail-in votes. Or even better example, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was secured Trump for most of the race. Now, from a standpoint, people are wondering, why are 70 or 80% of mail-in votes Democrat? Because Trump specifically said not to mail-in votes. He told his entire audience of followers not to mail in their votes. So that's right there a perfectly sound reason why there's not mail-in votes for Trump. No other thing you can say. That's just a perfectly sound reason why. Biden was pro mail-in. So when millions of mail-in votes from Pennsylvania come in, it's likely they're going to be Democrat-oriented. And that's how Georgia also turned. Georgia had millions of mail-in ballots. I'm not going to keep beating this dead horse because I want to keep this relatively short, but the gist is, I'll likely make a follow-up video to this too, but I just can't see these allegations and claims being loosely made. There's nothing to uphold them. I'm sorry, but until you have factual evidence to support your cause, I really can't cohere with what you're saying. That's okay. I don't have to cohere. You don't have to have other people cohere. You are right to have your own views and opinions, but if they're proven wrong, don't try and take the Michigan governor hostage, or don't say you're gonna riot if your president's not in office. So please stay safe and think smart.